afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Be Wary of Depending on Online and Mobile Ordering Solutions. My name is Lisa DeFeo-Bass. I'm a senior faculty member here at the Catering Institute, and I'm going to be your moderator today. This is the latest installation of our webinar series, catering education webinars that are designed specifically for the webinar community looking to increase sales in the catering and off-premise space. Before we begin, I'd like to say a special thank you to our partners in education, PepsiCo, Multimedia Software, and Catering Insights. Our partners are instrumental in working with the Catering Institute to provide education and learning resources to the restaurant community in order to help grow the off-premise space. Their support is greatly appreciated. Thanks very much. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our certified supply chain partners. These organizations are expanding their services to support the Catering Institute clients and their catering programs. All of our partners have been certified by the Catering Institute and offer valuable support and expertise to our clients. Thanks again for all that you do. Our Catering Institute team sets the standards for catering education and certification for restaurants that are, these webinars allow us to share our knowledge and expertise as well as that of our guest speakers. Speaking of our guest speakers, I want to take a moment to say hi and introduce our expert panelists. First, we have our very own Erle Dardick. Hi, Erle.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being here. Erle founded the Catering Institute in order to meet the catering program strategy and education needs of operators, franchisors, franchisees, and vendors in the restaurant and food service industries. Erle has been finding solutions for the operational challenges associated with running catering programs for how long, Erle? 100 years? 15 years?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. And this is actually the first time in all the time that we've done these webinars that you're on as an expert panelist. Thank you so much. This is exciting.
It's because I have such a great team. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Next we have Jason Schlenker. Did I say that right, Jason?
Schlenker, but that's okay.
Schlenker. Sorry. Jason's
right.
the VP of Business Development at Intel Contact Center Solutions. Jason is one of our certified supply chain partners that we were just speaking about a little while ago, and has been very influential in helping restaurants scale their programs. Intel has almost 20 years in the call center industry, and they're experts in call center operations and call center technology. They are focused exclusively on direct-to-consumer and business-to-business solutions. Intel has been working with the catering call center space for almost 10 years, and are proud to say are voted the best place to work in South Florida and Chicago. Thanks again for being here, Jason. I'm looking forward to this one.
Happy to be here, Lisa and Erle. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Before we dig into that conversation, let's just go through a quick agenda. We're going to be talking about some of the confusing marketing messages that's out there in terms of technology and what's needed in order to execute a catering program. We're going to be talking about how taking the order is the easy part, like what else is there to really focus on and what technology is needed to support that. And operations needs support. What do they need support in? The top 5 catering technology needs, and then we're going to have some time for Q&A. So let's get started. You know, Erle, in your blog, actually, let me back up just a little bit. Erle, what is the best way to get started when deciding on the technology solution? What are the factors that you would consider?
Okay, well, so this is a big conversation we're having with the industry, Lisa, today, and I think this is a great topic for everyone in our community to really think about, okay, because essentially what's happening is the technology landscape for the restaurant community is very complex. And out in the marketplace, you have a series of technology developers who are showing up in terms of a piece of the puzzle. For example, you have online ordering providers, you have loyalty, you have payment providers, you have middleware essentially that's playing a role certainly within the transaction process, okay? But the conversation today that has to be considered is when you're speaking to catering, this is an operations-based business challenge. And so what you need as part of your technology portfolio to run your entire infrastructure is you need to consider that you need a catering operations-based software solution. And that is the perspective today, and hopefully we'll talk also about how it fits into the ecosystem of point of sale and above store reporting and an entire IT strategy. Okay? Does that help?
Absolutely. Yep, definitely. Thanks for setting that up. As a matter of fact, I thought this article, you and I had this discussion, I guess last week, we were talking about that QSR article, and this was one of the quotes on there. Technology-friendly service in restaurants has become important to consumers broadly and to millennials and Generation Z customers, it's essential. What were your thoughts when you read the article? I know what they are for me because we talked about it, but I'd like you to share what your thoughts are on that article.
Yeah, this is the digital revolution. We're moving into the time of big data where we're starting to connect consumer to transaction all the way through. So the paradigm in retail has always been the power of order entry has been in the frontline team members. So whether you were in clothing retail or whether you were in food retail, which a restaurant is, or it was always the worker or the server that would key the order in for you. Okay, and because of the power of the internet, what's happening is we're connecting consumers to engagement through a process of connecting them to our brands, and we are essentially putting the power of ordering into their hands. Okay, and so the question is it just about ordering? It's really about using technology to engage your customers, and we know that the younger generation coming up with handhelds and the adoption of mobile devices and so on. So the key thing is you have to surface your business strategy is what you need to decide on in your organization, separate from technology, and then you have to find the right technology to support the business strategy. Okay, which is I think probably leading up into your next slide, I imagine.
I just feel like, in today's day and age, I think you touched on this, it's an expectation of the millennials and the Generation Z. So if you don't have those solutions in place and you don't have a very fluent way of placing an order and receiving the order, they're going to know it. They're very savvy, right?
Yeah, and making the order and delivering the order and tracking the conversation and all of the elements that go around building relationships with your customers. Remember, we're moving into big data, so we're now moving into the idea where somebody has order history always attached to their transaction history. This is a new paradigm shift for everybody. And, Jason, I'm sure will have some great things to say about it because he's got tools in his hands in call center-based environments who can actually experience, the right intellectual property or ideas, the order entry process, how you ask the questions, what questions you ask, how you get control on the business is an operations-based conversation. The right technology will do that for you.
Yeah, and we're basically training, and I know, Jason, we're going to get to, we're basically training today's customers on what to look for and what to expect from the restaurant company. So, yeah, I think that actually leads into the 5 pillars and, how technology kind of has to support these. Would you mind kind of going through and what your ideas are?
Sure. Well, these 5 pillars are essentially, technology plays in the 5 pillars, but essentially what, this is our concept that we've created at the Catering Institute, which is this framework, if you will, a business framework that we can apply to restaurant companies and actually all food service companies, where we can essentially benchmark them against best characteristics and behaviors around these 5 pillars. So we know, for example, that leadership of an off-premise catering business or off-premise business strategy at a restaurant level, whether you have one restaurant or whether you have 1,000 restaurants or more in your system, is if you don't have a business leader, which is the main pillar, that we know you will fail at doing this business regardless of technology. This is not a technology conversation. Okay, centralized services, and Jason's going to speak more about that. Sales and marketing, we have to become active in our selling. We now get into operations. Now, when you're looking in operations, as part of operations is IT. It's implied in operations that you have the right IT support, which is the right tool that you can use to execute your orders, because we know flawless execution is the key to this business. For all the reasons why we can't just talk on this phone call about it today, but. And then we have, delivery, which is a must. So the 5 pillars are the characteristics that we look at as organizations saying, are you actually ready to put technology in even to support the strategy? And if you score high on that, then you'll do very well. Great.
I was reading one of your blogs, and you mentioned that actually this whole webinar is based on this blog that you wrote a few months ago. Yes. And in that blog, you mentioned that there's some confusing marketing messages. Can you kind of tell us what you meant by that?
Yeah. For me, this is going right at the online ordering world. And so what you have out there is a complex providers of early startup technology companies that are trying to leverage the internet to essentially take orders. And so there's many of them. We refer to it as, in our industry, as online ordering, okay? And the online ordering companies out there, which there are hundreds, if not thousands, and there's many, and there's Seamless Hub and Grubhub and all these companies that are taking orders on behalf of the restaurant industry, is that they are in fact telling everybody that, yes, we can handle your catering orders for you. And so although they're not, the issue is not taking the order, because anybody can take the order. You just put up a form, you pick your date, pick your time, you can pick your menu item, and now you have an order. The question is, what do you do with the order? Okay, and they avoid this piece of the conversation. And so the strategy of the online ordering companies, who are not catering operation solutions, but in fact online ordering companies, is they now take that order, they either fax it to your store, or they print it out, or they hit your point-of-sale system, which does not have the business logic you need to execute the back end of your entire catering operation. And that's the confusion. So what is catering solution? Is it online ordering, or is it a catering operations-based solution, or a combination of the two? This is the conversation and the confusion in the marketplace.
You know, we get a lot of customers that come to us after they've invested in an online ordering solution or a POS catering solution, telling us that, you know, they made a mistake, it's not really meeting all of their needs, and they feel a little bit trapped. What advice would you kind of give to that person, like an exit strategy, or, you know, what do we tell that person?
Wow. So you mean it depends how far along they are in the project, and you know, if you've already gone through a full deployment process and you've implemented a poor technology solution, and it's been there for many years, and it's now legacy, and they patched it and they put things in between it, and you're running Excel here, and if that's your IT infrastructure, then you know, you have to take a serious look at the future of your business, which is directly connected to new technology. And so the question is, you know, as an organization, you have to take a hard look at what's happened. And so in some cases, people just won't make the switch because it's too hard, in which case, you know, they are not ready potentially. Now, in some cases, they just say, look, we'll leave what we have there and let's do something here. And you start the new life cycle of what is new technology, right? Okay, so
that's why it's just so important to really take a good look at the decision-making process, to your earlier point, because it's difficult.
You need to slow down. You need your CEO. You need your CFO, your CMO. You need every stakeholder in the entire organization, your CTO. You need your catering leader. You need to know what you're doing in your business and have the plan in hand, and you need to put new technology in. And if you don't have that type of sponsorship or perspective at your headquarters, then your program is doomed to fail, or will at least flounder. Okay, so that's just
Erle, if I can add to that, I think you're hitting on some really good points here. I mean, consumer expectations have just changed. They've evolved. They're very, very high these days, particularly with all the different channels of communication that these consumers have into these marketplaces. Online ordering, it's one feature in there, but it's certainly not the only one. You know, what happens to corporate visibility when they want to take a look into that consumer record in there? And like you said, whether they come online or they make a phone call into the organization or they even go on social media right now, consumer expectations are they want you to know, or their expectation is that you have some visibility into all those different touch points that consumer has had with the organization there. So if they have an issue or if they have something they need resolved, they don't necessarily care that they've called into multiple different channels or reached out to the business via multiple channels there. They expect you to resolve the problem regardless of what that channel is.
Right, but based on what you guys do, Jason, which is answer, how many thousands of calls do you guys answer every week?
Oh, boy, on a daily basis, we're probably around 30,000 phone calls a day.
30,000 phone calls a day coming in, and you're sitting here, you're saying basically what you're saying is online ordering is not the tool that helps you answer phones and take orders and manage the relationships.
Absolutely not. It's probably the least effective tool that we have internally.
Right. Okay, so it's so interesting. This is the conversation. It's wonderful because essentially there's a whole other solution set that lives behind online ordering, and it includes people like Jason and their services, which is not captured through this online ordering world. And so when your online ordering providers will tell you, yes, they can. Okay, and so that's what they will do. But there's a whole world that you need to be thinking about. Okay.
Well, because the online ordering piece is just the customer perspective. That's just the outfacing. And when you said behind, you mean the whole set of tools for the operators, for Jason, for the order takers.
Yeah, how you make the order, how do you deal with standing orders, how do you handle accounts receivables, how do you know, there's all these conversations about, you know, account management, and as Jason was saying, tasks and follow-ups, and you know, this wonderful conversation that is this ecosystem and work stream, if you will, that is built to the business logic of how you do catering out of restaurants or catering out of any facility. So you need a solution set that can help you with that.
Absolutely. And the value that are coming through these catering channels these days, I mean, it's record volume right across the board there. So there's a very big difference about a consumer's expectation when they're placing a $15 takeout order versus a $300 catering order. Those expectations, they have to be aligned with that consumers, with their expectation that they're going to have, good customer support, guest relations. They're going to have a lot of questions who are there. That's where the additional support comes in with a good catering software platform.
Excellent point, Jason. And so, okay, good. Well, that's wonderful. So, moving along. So, that's great conversation.
This is this slide that's up right now it just kind of takes us through the route of a typical online ordering. It's just the slide. Online order. And this is right. The order gets to fax. It's sent to the printer in the restaurant. Sends the order. I mean, that's exactly where all the support stops. Right.
Let's talk about this because this is so cool. So, because I look at this, I think of Tony's Deli, back in the old days. But this is, so again, this is where an order comes in through a mobile phone, or it comes in online. And the question is, now that the order's in the database, which the online ordering guys are doing, what happens to the order details and the order, and how do you manage things like order changes and all the subtleties? And so the mechanisms of procedure and policy and workflow, the efficiency of getting orders into the system and keeping it in a real-time environment where it's moving and changing is missing in this equation. So essentially, you're going to get an option to send it to a fax, a printer, or it gets injected in the point-of-sale system, which, point-of-sale does not work for catering. So and it gets all complex and mucked up in the manufacturing. Now, if you have several restaurants, so you're just doing one order a day, you probably could do it this way, maybe two. But when you start getting to 6 and 7 and 8, and now your phones are ringing, and now your king orders in the back end, you got front end orders coming in, back end orders coming in, you got this whole ecosystem and this speed of a business that's growing and scaling, this process you're looking at on the screen unravels. It just breaks apart, and your execution fails, and you're doomed at some sense of volume.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So that's what this slide's about.
We actually I took this quote down here from one of the attendees, and I asked him why they wanted to attend our webinar today. And he said, quoted here, "We have issues with consistency all the time. One order goes out with 6 pounds of chicken, and the same order the following week is only 5 pounds. We need a way to calculate production that is accurate and consistent. Our food cost is all over the place." And this is, I think, one of the ramifications that you were talking about.
Yeah, production is a key element. How much turkey to slice, how much turkey goes in that order and that order, the labels for the boxed lunches. All of the elements of getting the orders packaged and out the doors is a major part of a catering solution. Any good catering solution will have it. That's the difference. Okay. So
I think it speaks really well to what Jason was saying earlier, the difference between an individual order and versus the admin assistant who's ordering for her boss's team meeting, right? She has to have confidence. And the only way that she gets confidence is through consistent execution, consistent order after order.
100%. Stress-driven transaction. You need to have full visibility to all touch points in manufacturing and distribution, order entry, sales team, and into your leadership. And you need online ordering, and you have to drive takeout orders through point of sale, but you have to drive catering orders through a catering solution. And that is the main piece of the conversation today that attendees should walk away with, or whoever's listening to this webinar should walk away with this concept, which is that catering is a different business, takeout is a different business. You use online ordering, you inject it into point of sale for takeout, makes total sense. Your whole production line and bagging and packaging is connected to that. For catering, there's a different workflow, and so you need a proper catering solution to handle that business, which is what you should be looking for as you think about your digital strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and from the call center standpoint, one of the functionalities of the catering software that the center over here loves is just the fact of balance control. So particularly with multi-unit operators where you might have a pretty large city there where there's multiple facilities, multiple stores in that city, where if one store seems to be getting overloaded with orders and there's another one that has kind of free inventory or free workspace on that side, there's automatic balance control that can take place within the application. Their business rules are already set on that side where you can have kind of maximum capacity reached, but also still servicing that customer, just automatically rotate that business to a neighboring location. So unbeknownst to the customer, they're completely satisfied, and the stores and the locations themselves are operating at most efficient.
Yeah, I think actually we had a customer quote on one of the next slides. But just as a way to kind of, put everything into an easy I put these slides together as a top 5 functionality of software just to break them down. We talked a little bit about some of it, but I want to just get a little bit deeper. So,
sure.
The first slide, Erle, is the online and mobile ordering. I think you said it earlier. You have to have it, but it's just that.
Yeah,
first
so
one-fifth of the solution.
Correct, absolutely. So you have to have a digital strategy for your restaurant or food service operation. There's no question about it. And so online ordering by default is part of a good catering business solution. It has to be there. So you definitely have to have online ordering. The strategy at your online digital ordering should be people could place orders on their phones or tablets. You could do a kiosk, I suppose, if you really want to. That's all the same. Any screen anywhere, desktop, okay? But what you want to give your customers through that online ordering experience is a clear separation between would you like a takeout order or would you like a catering order? Give them an option. And so the question is, what is the definition of that program, which is connected to the 5 pillars, and the business strategy has to be really intact before you go with an online ordering solution. Because what happens is online ordering in most organizations is sponsored by marketing. They make a decision. They say, let's do it. And they say, just put a catering menu up. And that's what's happening. And so essentially because marketing owns catering in many of these organizations, it's the wrong strategy. It's an operations that has to own catering. And so there's a strategic issue, okay? And it's directly connected to your online and mobile ordering positioning, because when your consumer comes, you've got to offer them services, and then you have to have your workflow and execution. So if they choose a takeout order, it goes into the point-of-sale system. You can even answer phones in the back end and say, takeout, would you like takeout? You can do all that, key it in. And then you have this catering order, which goes a different workflow through a different tool set, namely your catering solution. And then it all feeds back into your infrastructure and data so that you get your reporting. And so that's the ecosystem that you need to look at when you're looking at your own online and mobile ordering solution provider. So in recap, if you're asking one of your online ordering providers or someone's trying to sell you online ordering, ask them if you can see their catering business solution, and then see what happens.
And not to get too technical, but when you are looking for functionality for your online, a lot of times there's a catering menu, and they come and they're ready to put it online. But what are some of the things that you've seen that need to be prepared? The menu changes that need to happen before, just because the experience needs to be right.
Yeah, all part of the 5-pillar process. So the assumption is in operations you're going to deal with your menu, and your menu is directly connected to your marketing of the products and your manufacturing and distribution of those products. And so we've learned that catering can be a subset menu. You do not have to offer your full retail menu for your catering program. And because now we're doing platters instead of individual sandwiches, we changed the dynamic. And so there's a conversation that has to be had and well understood within the organization is what's your catering identity, and it's directly connected to your menu and what you're executing. And so there's a conversation every organization has to have, is some reflection on what is our catering program, how is it different from our retail program, what is easier for us to execute, what is most profitable for us to execute, how can we guarantee the experience and provide a predictable, scalable experience that really complements our business and gets us more sales by getting our customers to spend more money with us where they live, work, and play.
Perfect.
Okay.
And it needs to be a really simple, fluent. This probably goes without saying, right? But sometimes you get on there and you go to place an order on some of these other sites, and it's so clunky. It's so hard. It takes forever. And these admin assistants, as we all know, they have very limited time. They want to go on, and 1, 2, 3, they want to be off.
Yep, absolutely. Menu complexity is definitely an issue. And every company is different. We have some customers who do very well with their menu complexity, but they have 1 or 2 restaurants, and they never have more.
Right.
Because they don't want more. And that's okay. That works too. So, but if you're in a multi-unit restaurant environment and if you're in a franchise or franchisee-based relationship, then you need to create a program that you can audit and certify and scale and go step by step to guarantee success of your franchisees. And there's an entire business strategy conversation that's, online ordering is just a small piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Or Jason, actually, here's the second piece of functionality that your software provider needs to have is this call center ordering that we've been talking a little bit about. I took a quote here from one of my contacts here, and when they were looking for a new solution, and they said it's all about centralization and not being able to update, adjust, move orders to another restaurant once the order has been sent to the restaurant. We have no perspective on customer relationship management or complaint management. Now that we've started to appreciate volume in our catering business, we're running into trouble. Do you take so many orders a day, I think, as we just talked about? Can you relate to this quote, moving the orders from one restaurant to another and how complex it is, and et cetera?
Sure, absolutely, and absolutely, it's a great topic here. The way we break these down too is there's three types of calls that come into us, and when we say calls, it could be multi-contact, it could be a chat, it could be an email, it could be an order that's automatically injected in through that online ordering app. But basically, you're looking at your takeout and your delivery calls. So those are called the quick orders there, the $15 to $30 orders. But then you have your catering calls. Your catering calls range between $200 and $300 average order value. Again, consumer expectations are very, very high with those. Not all the time the admin or somebody in the organization, they're serving 10 people, they're not exactly sure what to order. They could really use live operator support, and that's where our solution comes in, because we've been thoroughly trained by corporate, we've been thoroughly trained by the Catering Institute itself, and we've been thoroughly trained by the store itself about what to suggest, how to cross-sell, how to upsell effectively within those orders there too, and kind of how to manage that guest experience there. Additionally, we're taking information such as what's the event that they're celebrating. Maybe it's a standing meeting that takes place every Friday at 1 o'clock. Why not gather some intelligence that allows you to remarket to them for that standing meeting there? Maybe they're celebrating a graduation. You can handle the event a little bit differently like that as well. But then there's the consumer relations side too. So beyond the order itself and any modification that has to take place within that order, how about the person that just had a great experience in the location and wants to share that back with corporate, back with the store, and acknowledge somebody, or somebody that might have went into a location there and the restaurant or the restroom wasn't as clean as they'd like it to be. One, they'd like the store to know about it too, but also corporate might want to know about that as well. So to some degree, we're always gathering this information through each one of those transactions, and without that centralized tool there that really has the full CRM solution behind it, but obviously the ability to modify orders, take orders in there, but also gather consumer intelligence, you're really just at step one and really not providing the full solution for the consumer.
Earle, did you want to chime in on that?
Just such excellent points, Jason. And of course, there's so much more, because the perspective you're providing right now is at the call center piece. But of course, the solution set also operates at the restaurant level. The drivers are using it. There's a whole bunch of subtleties when you guys actually take these orders, answer the phones, deal with problems, you troubleshoot, you do all this stuff, and you're actually interacting with the drivers and the GMs at the stores and the catering coordinators on site, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beyond the consumer direct order for a catering order there, if we put that in there, there's a lot of times that we're communicating directly with the store themselves, checking on inventory. It might be a special order that we need to confirm with them. Sometimes there's callbacks to the customers directly. Maybe it's 15 minutes delayed due to traffic. The driver then contacts us, our contact center, and reach out to the guest to manage that experience in there and to avoid any type of challenge that comes down from that.
Right. And so, Jason, I actually have a question, because you have customers that do it both ways. You have customers that use a proper catering solution in their business, and you have customers that don't. They try and replicate point of sale, or they give you guys a point of sale system like Aloha or something in your call center agents are keying orders in.
Right.
Right. You're trying to bend some system that they've given you. Can you speak to the difference in performance between those two companies?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're hitting the nail on the head. So number one, we've got some customers that just use the full catering solution on there, the full CRM, where we have order modification process. So the way we see it too, almost the larger the order, the higher the chance of some type of modification is going to take place on that order as well. So with a full solution that we have with the CRM and the catering platform that we have, it's very easy. We can go and modify that order unbeknownst to the store themselves. They don't need to be contacted or anything like that. The consumer's super happy. It's a very quick, seamless transaction that's taking place there. Sometimes people just want to add to that order, subtract to it. There's more guests coming. There are less guests coming. That's an easy modification for us if you do have the catering software. Now, for the ones that don't, it becomes very challenging. More times than not, we're having to cancel that transaction altogether. Now, a cancellation notice goes over to the store. The store gets confused as far as what's in their POS system. They're looking for the credit on the other side of that. The consumer gets frustrated. So not only do you have a consumer frustration factor on that side too, but the length of time that it takes us to service a call on the ones that do not have that solution on there, it's almost double. And so a double call, a double handle time on that side is basically the double cost per call on that too. So that starts eating into margins there, which based on your volume for these multi-unit operators, that becomes really, really big very quickly.
Right. Wow. Okay. Well, some interesting insights.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I hear you speaking, Jason, the thing that comes to mind is these last-minute changes, or in today's day and age, as we've said, the consumer's getting more and more educated, more and more sophisticated with technology. They expect, same-day orders, same-day deliveries. So you have a very short window to get that order, place it, get it to the restaurant, get the store going on it, and get it delivered. So if you didn't have that system, like you said, you're doubling the steps to make any kind of changes. So you're eating into that very short little window that you had in the first place, right? So now we're going to be a late order, or I can just see it.
You're right, absolutely.
Good.
And one of the other things we talked about, just to go over these bullet points really fast, and this falls back, Erle, to what you were saying in the 5 pillars. Store personnel just don't have the personal bandwidth to take orders and keep up with their in-store customer demands. Like, what does that situation look like at the store?
Well, that's basically the decision you make at the brand levels. You create catering experts and people that are actually, educated and have a knowledge base of how your catering business is to be executed. This is just basically... in this day and age, your customers need focus based on at the transaction moment. And so if somebody's standing at the till and they're placing an order, and then that same person who's taking the order is now picking up a telephone to answer a catering order, the disconnect and chaos and inefficiency and all the stress involved in that starts to provide a poor experience. And there's nothing worse than when you're a catering customer that you call and you have to be put on hold. And there's nothing worse when you're standing at the counter, somebody answers the phone while you're talking to them. So that is part of the challenge. And so they just, it's about creating focus, putting it into the hands of the experts who can slow down with the customer and actually take time to sell to them, because a catering transaction could be worth, $1,000 that call, or more. That's mostly, there's more in there, but it encompasses. Oh, and then the other piece I would think about is, do you want to create a point of control, or if you have 15 stores, would you rather have 15 order takers, 2 at each store, 30 order takers, or would you rather have 3 people answering your phones in a controlled environment?
Right, and just not to mention just the variance in the consistency of that experience. Every person in that store will answer the call differently. So their style is different. They might walk you through a different path as far as entering that order there. With the centralized call center services, highly, highly trained these agents, that's all they support are the calls for that individual location, for that individual concept, and they're really just there to make that experience as consistent and as memorable as possible, and it's a great experience there too.
Yeah, and they're compensated based on the performance of that. That's
absolutely. Yeah, and the way we see it too. So when we put our numbers against an online ordering tool, so if somebody goes online and just hypothetically say they spend $100 on an order online, if that same customer calls into us, we're going to increase that average order value between 8 and 15%, just based on the conversation with them. We're learning something about the customer. We're going to recommend our favorite item in there. We're going to recommend a seasonal item that might come in there. We're going to cross-sell, upsell drinks or desserts or some type of appetizer on there as well. So that solution more than pays for itself, number one, from a revenue perspective, but it's also providing a better guest experience too.
Yeah, and not to mention the poor cashier, right? I mean, you have this employee that's trying to, give the best customer service that they can, so they have somebody standing in front of them. I think you mentioned, catering order could be $1,000, so the phone's ringing, but that cashier has to be giving their focus and time attention to the person standing in front of them. So,
I think we can all agree. I think the most frustrating part when you call a restaurant, you're about to spend money, you want to place a larger order there, and the first thing to tell you is please hold. I mean, it's happened to all of us there, and you're like, wow, I'm trying to give you money. If they answer, right? So, again, there's no visibility if you don't have that centralized solution in there. How many calls are you missing? What's your average handle time? What is the guest experiencing at that point? How do they rate you? How much money did they spend? How many times have they called in the past month? So you're not seeing any of that visibility, whereas when it comes to the centralized call center and you have the proper catering tools on that and the technology on that side, we record everything. Every piece of that transaction is recorded and quantifiable, and you can see exactly how your dollars are being spent.
It's invaluable. It's priceless.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the third slide is talking about sales support, and it starts off here saying 80% of salespeople quit before their first year due to lack of support from both a leadership and resource perspective. And I think this all comes back to, visibility, like we've mentioned a couple of times, because there's a quote here, and Erle, how often have you heard a sales director or somebody come to you and say, I'm not sure what my salesperson does. I know we have sales, but I'm not sure where they're coming from.
Right. I love this piece the most of all the pieces because I think there's so much money being left on the table by our restaurant community because we're lagging the skills and experience to become sales-based organizations. And every other industry has figured this out already. They have salespeople who are professionals, well-trained, knocking on doors, have the database, they're pursuing them, they're calling them, they're saying them things, and they're trying to win their business. This has been going on. Everybody else knows it, but the restaurant industry still does not. And so, to me, this is the biggest, what I'm going to call lowest hanging fruit for any restaurant owner, operator, GM, big company perspective. Is that to create a sales-based organization and build a sales culture in your organization is the key, the ultimate key to growing your sales, okay? And so this is the paradigm shift, is that you have to build a sales team. You have to have somebody in charge of sales. You have to adopt a sales system. You have to create accountability and track every single phone call and, create your opportunities and close your business and measure the closing and put a big thermometer up on the wall to say, hey, we did 100,000 this month, Actually get excited about it. Right? That is the process of what is a major pillar through the 5 pillars. And there are some brands who have figured this out. Panera Bread has done an incredible job at that. They've built a sales-based organization. They understood it, they did it, and they're brilliant at it. So they're actually, there's hundreds of people knocking on doors in every market, building relationships based on the brand. So
yeah, you're right.
And go ahead, sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is it was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences for us, too, when the Catering Institute came into Inktel here and taught our trainers and our workforce how to effectively sell, how to probe for these opportunities that are into. We're a retail-based organization, but there was a difference between retail with stores and large retailers like Walmart versus a store or versus a restaurant experience. So when Catering Institute did come in and kind of helped us identify these opportunities, probe in the right way for these additional questions in there, not through any type of pushy upsell program there, but just really getting better at knowing that customer and the reactions to certain questions there. That certainly helped us and catapulted us into a sales-based organization.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Yeah, handling objections. How do you actually close business? So there's a lot of work to be done in this piece. So when I look at sales support, for me it's about identifying a sales structure, which is a team of people. It could be at the smallest level, it could just be one person. But you're basically supported in operations. So you give sales training to your delivery drivers, you give sales training to your GMs, the people that are dealing with your customers coming in the front end, and they're funneling leads up to a salesperson who's actually now picking up the phone, canvassing, sampling, finding out how big is the opportunity, because maybe it's a $3,000 catering job. And that, for that, it's worth making a phone call and following up and saying, hey, how about a sample for you? Try and close the business. So that is the sales support structure that needs to be.
I think there's a big misconception too, Earl, just to kind of hit on that point that you just made. Within the restaurants, a lot of times we'll find that they are pulling people that are great customer service representatives in their restaurants to be the salespeople.
Yes.
And it's a completely different skill set, right? And that's what's so new to the restaurant community, because historically and traditionally we wait for the people to come into us.
Yeah, it's now, it's providing leadership.
Now we're saying go and knock on the door, right?
Yeah,
so it's a whole other skill set.
Yep, but you can teach it, and I believe very strongly that teaching young people sales skills is a very valuable thing.
Sure. And there's a tool that we use on this side too. So just through that CRM technology there, we can take a peek into customers' accounts and just take a look at a business that might have stopped ordering for some reason. So it's just what we call a dormant account, a sleepy account. So when the call volume is not so high for us, what our agents are trained to do, go into that CRM and start looking at activity in there. So automatically these leads start coming up to them and say, hey, might be a good time to reach out to so-and-so at such organization. It's been 3 months since they've ordered with us. Reintroduce yourself. Maybe that admin has changed jobs, got promoted. There's a different person making those decisions there. It's a very simple, hey, thank you for your business on that side. We're just reaching out to say hello and mention a new menu item, something like that. Send a sample over there too. So that's a great way to drive sales for us as well.
Yeah, and a good catering solution will do that for you. So coming back to what this webinar is all about, which is be wary of online ordering, is because you can't track all that in online ordering. And that's what this webinar is about today.
And they really do. I mean, it is all about the sales support because, again, most salespeople leave because there's no visibility into what they're doing. Yeah. To your point, Earl, salesperson isn't a coordinator at a restaurant who's going out and doing deliveries. They are managing the whole sales business, the whole catering business, really.
The strategy, the sales strategy. Although they need to keep the drivers trained up and give them some sales.
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep everyone selling. Totally.
Yeah. Who hasn't ordered, to Jason's point? You need those reports that show you the sleepy clients.
Correct.
So you can spend the day just calling and re-engaging with those clients. I mean, it's a sales position for sure.
Excellent.
I love this. I love this webinar so far. Okay, we're almost done with it. So the next point, so that's the third part of the technology and the functionality that's needed in order to run the catering program. And the fourth part is, we talked a little bit about it, is the production and fulfillment. Earl, you want to take this slide?
Yeah, I mean, this is close and dear to me. So this is about how you manufacture and deliver the experience. And so that.
Tell us about Tony's Deli. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I really want you to tell us a real-world story about Tony's Deli and what you used to go through over there.
Sure. Well, this was driven out of Tony's Deli because the volume was so high there. So just for those who are listening in, so Tony's Deli, small deli, Vancouver, BC, was a turnaround opportunity. I got involved in it, started to fix it. In the process of fixing it, built this catering operation out the back door that expanded, and we sort of bursted out of this very 1,700 square foot deli and had to buy the business next door and built this catering process and manufacturing, and it was all about finding efficiency and how fast and how much we can get out the door and maintain our quality and all of that. So there's a lot of learnings in that. I did that for many years. And this whole company came out of that experience, and so production, is a critical part of it. Catering is typically somewhat forecasted, not always. I mean, half your business will come in the day before. There is last minute in this business. It's just the way it is. And you have to get very good at the enterprise. And so how you prep things, how fast you make things, all directly connected to your menu, which is directly connected to your business strategy, is about getting it out the door. So, that's what Tony's Deli was all about. And we found a way, which I won't share on this call. Maybe we'll do a webinar just on that one day, Lisa, because I think it's so great, which is, how do you make 1,000 sandwiches for lunch? That was the big question. And we found a way to do it by manipulating our menu into a format that was manufacturable. And anyways, anybody who wants to talk about it offline, we could do that. But essentially, coming back to the webinar, which is, be wary of online ordering. If your online ordering solution does not help you with your production and order fulfillment of your catering orders, don't use it as a catering solution. You need a catering solution. So you have to be very wary as you go down the path, because the subtleties of, no mustard, label for Erle, no onions on one, 55 assorted vegetarian, that kind of conversation is different than, I'll have a turkey on Swiss and a bag of chips, and Lisa will have a tuna sandwich and an apple and a milk, and Jason will. That's a very different transaction. Okay, so anyways, yeah. So just you have to get deep into the thought process of how you raise your volume out the door, which is a subset of probably your existing menu items, using your same raw materials to repurpose them into things like, if you have cheese, all of a sudden cheese platter becomes maybe a probability of a product for catering that you don't offer in your retail operation. It might be about.
So what did you do before you made this? What did you do before you had software to support the production? Like, what were you doing?
I took it all on paper, and I suffered like everybody else.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I took an order, put it in QuickBooks, generated an invoice, had a delivery logbook, wrote it down, made an invoice, emailed it at that time, I guess, or sent it. And then we had the order transaction. We had to manually process the credit card and then go to our point-of-sale system and key it in. That was how we did it.
How many mistakes and how it sounds like that was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and then it was like, we can't do this, it's breaking, and we kept squeezing the deli until we figured out. Now, the end result of that was a deli that was doing, $2.3 million a year in sales, and was incredibly efficient because it was such a streamlined program that now had technology behind it, and my in-store experience was completely different than my catering operation. It was a whole different thing.
Great. I love those real-life stories because it's what's happening all the time. I went to go visit a client, about 6 months ago, and I gave her an order. I gave the restaurant an order because we really wanted to just kind of evaluate the efficiency of production, and they didn't have any software or anything like that. It was just one order for 30 people, and it literally, just to calculate the production, because they had to do everything by hand, it took over 40 minutes just to do that piece of it, and then they actually had to start cooking the food. So, again, today people are expecting the orders, same-day orders. It's impossible to do it. One order maybe, like you said, Earl, but 3, 4, no way.
Right.
And the 3 top reasons why a catering decision maker will stop using a company is because of food quality, which is, every time they get an order, it's different consistency. It's not consistent. The order's inaccurate, and it creates a lack of confidence and a lack of trust. So those are the top 3 reasons, and that's Technomics data.
Yeah, and the key thing here before you move on to the last piece here, which is, is to understand that the way you make your orders and your food and package it and deliver it for catering is different than what you do at retail. And so that's why you need a different workflow. Okay, the whole thing's different.
Yep. All right. And delivery management. So the 4th top reason a catering decision maker will stop ordering us is because of late deliveries. So, what does the system have to do in order to kind of meet this delivery demand, Earl?
Yeah, well, I think as part of your strategy, first you have to decide, are you going to insource or outsource your delivery? It's the biggest question people have on their minds these days. We're seeing all these third-party delivery services, Uber, Amazon, Postmates. We're seeing Starbucks. We're seeing all these big guys are getting into this delivery game. Everyone's trying to solve for the last mile. And so we're kind of seeing that sort of mini strategy developing. And so you have to decide as a brand, first of all, what mix of that you want, and that very much depends on your volumes. And what I always recommend is you have to have at least one individual who is responsible for the execution of delivery management across your restaurants. So you really have to start inside. And you want to handle those, especially in the early days of program development, because you just can't rely on the risk of passing delivery responsibility to a third party, because when it goes wrong, it's your problem. It's your customer. You've lost it. Your brand. You're the one that has to give the money away. It's a very risky proposition, and so it depends how you feel about that. Some people don't mind doing it and passing it out, and they have enough muscle to negotiate some agreement that's compensatable, I suppose. And then we have, of course, the smaller people, smaller restaurateurs, independents, certainly should do it themselves. And you definitely want to have a van with your logo on it, which is telling you have to be an inspiration, and you have to be visible in the communities you work in order to be able to win catering sales. You have to be part of it. So your delivery driver should be an expert, trained properly in the safest driving practices. You should train them on deliveries, train them in sales, certify them. They should proudly wear, I'm the catering driver, and let them own it. So there's a whole process of investment into your delivery processes. And basically your technology that handles delivery, as long as it can access your invoices, your payments are probably pre-processed before you go, as long as it can handle all of your, generating the labels for the drivers, as long as the pack sheets, all the information drivers need, either on paper or on their mobile devices. It should basically be able to have some geolocation in it. So, for example, when you're driving down the street and I'm the delivery guy, it sends a message to the system that notifies the customer that you'll be there in 10 minutes, or it's left the building. It's just some communication that we pass to the customer to let them know that their experience is in transit. So we're using it for communication.
And how important is that? I mean, you get these customers that call all the time, right? The anxious.
That visibility, it's priceless. So if you think about it, too, the anxiety starts to set in if somebody's stuck in traffic there and they're waiting for a lunch meeting to, catering to be delivered there, too. So what a great concept where all of a sudden you get a text message to their phone or an email that just says, hey, you just left the building, it'll be there in 15 minutes, as opposed to that customer getting so anxious that they make a phone call back to the call center there, too. So that's a whole other transaction fee that you're going to incur with zero revenue tied to that, whereas the system can automatically divert that call, kind of self-serve that customer before it even comes into there. So we love that tool on there too. We've even gone back to helping support the delivery drivers on their side for frequently forgot items, things that people most call back to the call center for. It's condiments, it's plates, it's silverware, it's cups, it's simple things like that. So now these drivers can be stocked ahead of time so they can kind of divert a mini disaster on there without having to make a special trip back to there. But those are great tools to have.
Great, yeah. And so, just through training and certification, we teach them to stock their vans. It's all part of the process. So, wonderful, great feedback. So delivery, there's a conversation.
I'm just interested, would you say that 90% of catering complaints are directly related to, I'm just having a guess, are directly related to delivery?
On our side, I wouldn't say 90%, but it is a decent amount. It is upwards of 50 plus on that point. Forgotten items are the biggest ones, or a change, a last minute change in an order is really probably the other percentage.
Yeah, it makes sense. Last mile is always the hardest for everybody, but
right.
We can do a webinar on the last mile.
We can do a webinar on everything. It's such I love catering. It's great. Oh, great. So then I put this last slide together, and it's all about visibility again. So lack of visibility can be attributed to 1 out of 5 restaurant catering programs not succeeding. Would you agree with that quote, Erle?
Well, what you measure, you absolutely need visibility into performance, and it's a lack of accurate data, which is the problem organizations have in general. They have a loose definition of catering. They have a catering button on the POS says, $130 catering, It doesn't tell it, so we definitely, by using data and providing information, especially real-time information. So when you're in a cloud-based environment on a proper catering solution that's a cloud-based solution, and the call center's in Florida, and they want to get a note to the store who's online in Denver, they just post a note, and it's like the driver's right there. It's real-time. Everything happens now. So what happens is you create such a rich environment for the flow of information and data that you become much smarter as an organization. That's what happens.
Yep. Jason, anything to add to that last slide?
Yeah, I think this is it's probably the most valuable piece to go into a centralized call center model there, not only from the call center standpoint, but also from the technology piece too. It's funny, we've done some tests where we've gone head-to-head with the store directly. That's our biggest competition out there right now. It's not additional call centers. There are a few key components or key call centers out there, but for the most part, the calls are being delivered directly to the stores themselves, and they feel that they can do it better than a centralized call center model. So what we always suggest is, hey, let's do a 10-store pilot, a 2-store pilot, whatever the number is, and we'll go head-to-head with the numbers. And one of the first things that we do is we just start asking for numbers, stats. of what's how many calls are you taking, how many calls are you missing, what's your average handle time, what's your revenue per call, what's your order conversion per call. It's amazing. They immediately just start scratching their heads, like, we have no idea. And we're like, well, that's the point. You don't have any idea. And that's, what gets measured grows. I mean, that's exactly the point on this side too. So the beauty of having proper architecture, proper technology, and a proper centralized system, it's invaluable. I mean, there's just so many different key components to why this just increases your revenues across the board.
Great. Yeah, so tying it up, Lisa, I guess you're kind of moving into, back to, what was this webinar about today? I think, wrapping this up for anybody that's listening to the call after is very important. As a restaurant community member, as a restaurateur, the complexity of technology coming at your organization is completely overwhelming. And so what you need to do is you need to stop. You need to know that your online ordering solution is not going to solve your catering business for you, okay? And you need to come back to your business strategy, which is catering an important part of your strategy? If the answer to that is yes, then you have to set your organization up properly for success. You can use a framework, ours, or one like it if you can find another one. And then from there, you now at some point want to look at a technology solution that solves your catering operations. And that is what this conversation is about today.
I couldn't have even come close to saying that as well. So thank you so much.
I've been doing it a long time.
I know. I know. You've taught me everything I know. Yeah. You're the best. Thank you so much, both of you. I think this is a very valuable webinar, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. As far as if you have any other questions, please email or tweet us at cateringinstitute.com. You can go to our website, right? I think it's cateringinstitute.com. And there's a place for questions, or have us reach out and touch base with you. And it can be about anything, sales, software, recommendations, just, anything. Please give us a call. And our next upcoming webinars and workshops, we have a catering sales management seminar, which is so exciting. I think Erle and Tracy, right?
Yeah.
You guys are going to be talking about sales, how to go get them, where they're at, why you want them, etc. Do you want to expound on that, what the seminar is going to be all about?
We're just we've been doing these education workshops, and it's all about sales training. And so we're holding a day in Dallas where we've got a room for 300 people. We've got our supply chain partners, PepsiCo and Punch, and we've got they're supporting us in the process. And we're going to have a day of learning and sales training. So come on down and book yourself in there. It's going to be a very valuable day. And
I really wish we had the quote. Yeah, I wish we had the quotes from the last time that we did that, because it was so. We've talked about it a bunch, but salespeople really feel like sometimes they're on an island, and the opportunity for them to get in a room with a community of peers and be able to kind of share some of their anxieties, some of their learnings, best practices. That's what everybody enjoyed the most about it, because, sales is sales. Sometimes it's stuff that you already know. Sometimes it's stuff you've forgotten. But really the networking and the feeling of empowerment and excitement that you take back to the organization is what really everybody was commenting on the last one. So if you have salespeople, please send them. They're going to love it. Anything else? Any final comments, Erle, Jason, before I thank our partners and sign off?
I think it was a great conversation today, and I appreciate the opportunity, so thank you.
Same here. Yeah, great conversation. It's such a fun topic to talk about here, too. It's just such an emerging market here, so I really appreciate you guys putting this together.
Thank you. Well, as one of our partners, I want to say thank you to you, Monkey Media Software, PepsiCo, Catering Insights, Intel, Punch, Voice, Stellar, and Primary. Thank you all so much for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the next webinar. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.